Welcome to EchoShade, where history whispers its darkest secrets and forgotten stories.
Princess Diana was born Diana Frances Spencer in 1961, a young girl from a noble British family, unaware of the extraordinary life that awaited her. From a young age, she displayed a unique warmth and empathy that drew people toward her. Even as a child, her compassion was evident. She comforted frightened children, tended to injured animals, and had an innate ability to sense the emotions of others. These early traits foreshadowed the life she would lead as the people's princess. Her engagement to Prince Charles in 1981 made headlines across the globe. Millions watched as the young girl from Park House became a princess overnight. Her wedding was celebrated with unprecedented pomp and joy, and she seemed to embody a fairy tale life. Yet, beneath the royal glitz and smiling public appearances, Diana faced immense pressures. The rigid protocols of the monarchy, the relentless media attention, and the strains in her personal life began to take their toll. Despite this, she never allowed her personal struggles to prevent her from helping others. She reached out to children, victims of landmines, and the sick with a sincerity that captivated the world. In the years that followed, Diana became a global icon. She used her visibility to champion causes often ignored by royalty. Her visits to hospitals, her advocacy for HIV patients, and her work with charities revealed a princess who is not content to merely exist within palace walls. She became a symbol of hope, of empathy, and of courage. But along with the admiration came heartache. Her marriage to Prince Charles was troubled, her private life scrutinized by relentless media attention, and her every action analyzed under the unforgiving public eye. On August 31, 1997, the world watched in shock as news broke of her tragic death in a car accident in Paris. The world mourned, and millions felt a personal loss. But for some, Diana's story did not end there. Some began to notice signs, coincidences, and patterns that suggested her spirit might have continued beyond her untimely death. Years later, a young woman named Emma experienced moments she could not explain. From childhood, she felt drawn to Princess Diana, not merely as an admirer, but with an intensity that surpassed ordinary fascination. She dreamed of grand palaces, of flashes of cameras, and of walking among crowds who knew her name. These dreams were vivid, almost lifelike, yet Emma had never been to such places. She woke with tears on her cheeks, a mixture of joy and sorrow she could not comprehend. Emma's fascination with Diana grew as she got older. She began reading biographies, watching documentaries, and visiting memorials. The places Diana had loved felt eerily familiar. The gardens of Kensington Palace, the corridors of St. Mary's Hospital, and the charity centers she had visited all invoked a sense of déjà vu in Emma. It was as though she were walking the footsteps of someone she once had been. Once, a stranger in a park muttered the words, "Lady Diana," and Emma felt a chill run down her spine. As these experiences intensified, Emma realized that she was living with memories and emotions that were not entirely her own. She could feel the immense joy Diana experienced when helping others, but she also felt the anguish of her public scrutiny and the heartbreak of her private struggles. These sensations were overwhelming, yet they came with a profound sense of purpose. Emma understood that her connection to Diana was not random. She was carrying fragments of Diana's soul, an inheritance of compassion, empathy, and courage meant to continue Diana's work in a new life. Emma began to see the world through Diana's lens. She gravitated toward charity work, helping children and the sick with a devotion that felt instinctive. She sought to understand the world's pain as Diana once had, finding herself drawn to causes that echoed the princess's own missions. With every act of kindness, she felt closer to Diana, as though each moment of giving allowed a piece of the princess's spirit to shine through her. Strange coincidences continued to mark Emma's life. She would find items connected to Diana's past in unexpected places, a magazine clipping tucked into a library book, a photograph hidden in an antique store, or a name appearing repeatedly in her daily life. These events were small yet profound, reinforcing the sense that her soul carried a living memory of Diana's essence. Even the places Emma visited seemed to recognize her presence, as if welcoming a familiar spirit returning home. As Emma matured, the memories and emotions she carried became more vivid. She could recall the intimate details of Diana's experiences, the nervous excitement before public appearances, the heartbreak of betrayal, the joy of touching lives through charity work, and the overwhelming sorrow of her final days. These recollections were not always easy to bear, and Emma often struggled with the intensity of emotions she felt as if they were her own. But they also guided her, shaping her actions, her choices, and her understanding of the world. Emma's journey was both challenging and enlightening. Through her, Diana's compassion continued to ripple through the world, touching lives in ways that were impossible to quantify. She understood the weight of her inherited memories, but she also embraced the responsibility that came with them. Each act of kindness, each moment of courage, was a continuation of Diana's legacy, a testament to the enduring power of love, empathy, and humanity. It became clear to Emma that reincarnation was not merely a concept or a belief. It was a lived experience, a bridge connecting the past and the present. Through her connection to Diana, she saw that life and spirit are never confined to a single existence. The soul seeks to fulfill its purpose across lifetimes, to heal, to inspire, and to love. Emma's life became a testament to this truth, a living narrative of Princess Diana's enduring spirit reborn in a modern world. Emma grew up in a quiet suburb, surrounded by the ordinary rhythms of daily life. Yet she was different from other children. From her earliest memories, she sensed a world beyond the ordinary. Places she had never visited felt strangely familiar. Faces she had never met lingered in her dreams, and sometimes fleeting emotions overwhelmed her for no apparent reason. Sorrow, longing, or joy that seemed too vast to belong to her alone. Her parents noticed her peculiar tendencies. At the age of 5, she would spend hours poring over picture books of palaces, royal ceremonies, and notable historical events. She would become unusually still, staring at the images with wide eyes, murmuring names she could not fully understand. When they mentioned Princess Diana, Emma's reaction was intense. She would recognize Diana's photographs instantly, often pointing to the images and calling out details about the dresses, the events, or the people present, though she had never been taught these facts. By the time Emma reached elementary school, her fascination with Diana deepened into something more complex. She began collecting newspaper clippings, magazine articles, and photographs of the princess. She could recall specific details of Diana's life, even small incidents not widely publicized, such as her charitable visits to hospitals or her conversations with children during public appearances. Emma's teachers and classmates regarded her with curiosity. How could a young girl possess such knowledge and emotional insight about someone she had never met? Her dreams were the most telling sign that something extraordinary was happening. In these nightly visions, Emma would find herself walking through grand corridors of palaces, hearing the echoes of applause and feeling the weight of attention directed at her. She experienced moments of profound sorrow, the sting of betrayal, and the isolation that had defined Diana's private life. These dreams were vivid, almost tangible, and they left her waking in tears more often than not. She remembered the laughter of children she had comforted, the nervous anticipation before public appearances, and even the complex dynamics of royal life that Diana had navigated with such grace. Emma's adolescence brought heightened intensity to these experiences. She began to sense an invisible guidance in her life, subtle nudges that seemed to connect her to Diana's world. A visit to a local museum triggered an overwhelming sense of recognition. She stood before a painting depicting a royal gathering and felt as if she had been there before. The arrangement of figures, the gestures, the lighting, it all resonated within her, stirring a deep, emotional familiarity. These experiences were disorienting, but they also provided a sense of purpose. Emma began to understand that her connection to Diana was not casual or coincidental. During her teenage years, Emma's connection to Diana's past life became impossible to ignore. She experienced moments of uncanny foresight, intuitions about people's emotions, sudden understanding of social dynamics, and an innate ability to sense the suffering of others. When she watched documentaries about Diana, she would cry uncontrollably, not merely out of sympathy, but because she felt the princess's memories as her own. The thrill of Diana's triumphs and the sting of her tragedies were experienced firsthand, in a way that was both exhilarating and devastating. At 17, Emma visited London for the first time. The city, alive with history and modern vibrancy, seemed to welcome her. As she walked near Kensington Palace, a flood of memories hit her with such intensity that she had to stop. She could feel the echoes of Diana's footsteps, hear the whispers of staff and courtiers, and sense the flow of public attention, the smiles and the critiques. Every element of the palace, the gardens, the marble corridors, the sunlight spilling through the windows, felt intimately familiar. She wandered through the spaces where Diana had once lived, each location unlocking fragments of her past life, leaving Emma both awed and overwhelmed. Emma's experiences were not limited to familiar places. She began noticing recurring symbols and objects that seemed connected to Diana. A locket containing Diana's portrait appeared in a second-hand shop, seemingly out of nowhere. She encountered people who unknowingly referenced Diana in casual conversation, and certain songs or phrases triggered powerful emotional responses that she could not explain. Even mundane events, seeing a car similar to the one involved in Diana's fatal accident or encountering a rose garden in bloom, would evoke vivid recollections of emotions and sensations she had never consciously experienced before. School counselors and friends were concerned about Emma's intense emotional responses and her unusual behavior. She was often described as empathetic beyond her years, sensitive to the needs of others and unusually intuitive. While some dismissed her as simply imaginative, Emma knew that her experiences were more than fantasy. She carried memories, emotions, and knowledge that could not have originated from her current life. They were pieces of a life that had belonged to another, Diana's life. As Emma entered college, she became determined to understand her connection to Diana. She studied history, psychology, and spirituality, exploring theories of reincarnation, memory, and the continuity of the soul. People remarked on the uncanny resemblance in behavior, empathy, and energy. Conversations often drifted to topics Diana had once been passionate about, and Emma found herself naturally advocating for causes with the same fervor. These experiences reinforced her belief that her life was part of a larger continuum, a story that began with Diana and continued through her own existence. The awakening of these memories marked a turning point in Emma's life. She no longer viewed her experiences as oddities or coincidences. They were evidence of a soul's journey, a testament to the enduring nature of human spirit and purpose. Emma's life became a living continuation of Diana's story, a story of compassion, courage, and the capacity to heal and inspire across lifetimes. Through it all, Emma understood that her path was both extraordinary and humbling. She carried the joy, sorrow, and lessons of a life lived with profound impact, and she had the opportunity to continue shaping the world in meaningful ways. Her connection to Diana was a reminder that the soul never truly dies, that love and purpose transcend time, and that the legacy of one extraordinary woman could endure, reborn in another. As Emma entered her mid-20s, her life began to take on a new shape. The memories of Diana were no longer fleeting images or inexplicable dreams. They had become a guiding force. Every decision she made seemed intertwined with the experiences of the princess. Simple daily tasks often evoked fragments of Diana's past. The feeling of a dress brushing her skin reminded her of Diana's elegant public appearances. A child's laughter echoed the moments Diana had spent comforting those in pain, and even casual conversations revealed insights Emma could not have learned in her current life alone. It was during this period that Emma's connection to Diana began manifesting in ways that could no longer be ignored. She had always felt an urge to help the vulnerable, but now it became a mission. Emma found herself drawn to organizations working with sick children, survivors of trauma, and marginalized communities, precisely the areas Diana had championed during her lifetime. She organized charity events, volunteered tirelessly, and with each effort, felt a deep sense of recognition and fulfillment. It was as though the soul she carried was guiding her, ensuring that Diana's compassion and dedication continued through her actions. Alongside this purposeful work came a heightened awareness of public scrutiny and attention. Emma, though not a public figure like Diana, discovered that people were naturally drawn to her presence. Her empathy, warmth, and ability to make anyone feel understood were uncanny. Strangers often approached her to share personal stories or seek advice, as if sensing an aura of trust and comfort. Emma realized that her connection to Diana was affecting not only her inner life, but also her interactions with the world, subtly drawing people toward her in the same way Diana had captivated millions. During this time, Emma began documenting her experiences more formally. She meticulously recorded her dreams, memories, and the strange coincidences that continued to appear in her life. One entry after another painted a vivid picture of continuity between her life and Diana's. She wrote about the subtle gestures, the shared habits, and the recurring patterns that connected her existence to a life lived decades earlier. These records became a map, tracing the journey of a soul across time, linking Emma's present to Diana's past in ways that were both tangible and profound. Emma's connection to Diana was not without struggle. The emotional weight of inherited memories was substantial. She experienced moments of profound sadness, often triggered by mundane events that reminded her of Diana's personal pain. A passing car that resembled the vehicle involved in the fatal Paris accident could send her into hours of reflection and grief. Watching documentaries or reading news articles about the media's treatment of Diana evoked feelings of betrayal and isolation. At times, the intensity of these inherited emotions was nearly overwhelming, leaving Emma physically exhausted and emotionally drained. Yet, amidst the struggle, there was clarity. Emma realized that these emotions were not random, they were lessons. Each pang of sorrow, each burst of empathy, was a reminder of the challenges Diana had faced, and an instruction on how to navigate her own life with courage and grace. Emma began to understand that the purpose of reincarnation was not simply to relive past experiences, but to integrate them, to learn, and to continue a mission that spanned lifetimes. The trials she inherited were as much a gift as they were a burden, shaping her into a vessel capable of carrying forward Diana's legacy. As her 20s progressed, Emma encountered moments that defied explanation. While traveling in London, she visited the National Portrait Gallery, where she stood before a painting depicting a royal gathering from the late 20th century. The scene stirred memories so vivid they felt real. The weight of a gown, the whispers of courtiers, and the hum of cameras in the distance. It was as though Diana herself had returned to guide Emma, offering glimpses of a life that had been paused but not ended. In those moments, Emma felt a profound sense of validation, confirmation that her connection to Diana was authentic and purposeful. Emma also began noticing symbolic patterns in her life. Certain numbers, names, and locations repeatedly appeared, each linked in some way to Diana's life. She discovered that key dates coincided with events significant in Diana's past. She encountered objects, a locket, a ribbon, a photograph, that seemed to emerge from nowhere, yet carried undeniable energy, as if intentionally placed for her discovery. These experiences reinforced the idea that her life was being orchestrated by a force beyond her comprehension, guiding her along a path that mirrored Diana's own journey. As Emma embraced her mission, she began taking on public advocacy work. While she did not seek fame, her efforts naturally attracted attention. She became known for her ability to empathize deeply with others, for her skill in organizing charitable initiatives, and for her unwavering commitment to causes that mattered. Media outlets occasionally noticed the uncanny resemblance in her energy and demeanor to Diana, though Emma herself never sought recognition. She acted out of purpose, not publicity, yet the world could not help but notice. One particularly transformative experience occurred when Emma visited a children's hospital in London. As she walked through the wards, she instinctively gravitated toward patients who were frightened or withdrawn. She held their hands, listened to their stories, and offered comfort in a way that felt instinctive and intuitive. One child, upon seeing Emma, smiled and exclaimed, "Oh, you're just like her." The child's words echoed in Emma's mind, a poignant reminder that she was channeling Diana's compassion in real time. The hospital staff remarked on her unique presence, noting the warmth and reassurance she brought to everyone she encountered. Emma's emotional and spiritual growth continued alongside practical achievements. She began studying humanitarian efforts, learning the logistics of charitable work, and understanding how to maximize impact. Her inherited experiences of Diana's life provided both wisdom and motivation. She could anticipate challenges, navigate complex social dynamics, and respond to emotional crises with remarkable skill. Emma had effectively become a continuation of Diana, not in physical form, but in spirit, energy, and purpose. At the same time, Emma faced the realities of balancing her ordinary life with her extraordinary connection. Relationships, career choices, and personal goals were all influenced by the memories and emotions she carried. Romantic relationships were complicated. She sometimes felt as though she were reliving Diana's challenges and love. Professional choices were guided by a moral compass shaped by Diana's values. Social interactions were colored by insights that could not be explained rationally. Yet, Emma navigated these complexities with grace, understanding that living a reincarnated life required mindfulness, empathy, and an acceptance of responsibility that few could comprehend. During this period, Emma also began connecting with other individuals who had explored themes of reincarnation and spiritual continuity. She attended conferences, engaged with researchers, and read extensively about cases of past life memory. While academic studies and anecdotal accounts provided context, Emma's experiences were unique. Rooted in a blend of lived emotion, historical knowledge, and a direct connection to a life that had profoundly impacted the world. She began to see herself not just as a follower of Diana's legacy, but as an active participant in its continuation, capable of shaping outcomes and touching lives in tangible ways. One evening, as Emma walked alone through Hyde Park, she paused beneath a canopy of trees, feeling a profound connection to the world around her. The air was still, the rustle of leaves gentle, and in that moment she sensed Diana's presence. Not as a memory, but as a living energy intertwined with her own. It was a confirmation that the journey she had undertaken was real, that the purpose she had inherited was genuine, and that her life was a bridge linking past and present. As Emma's influence grew, so did her understanding of the responsibilities that came with it. She recognized that carrying Diana's legacy was not about emulation alone. It was about interpretation, integration, and evolution. Her actions were informed by both the wisdom of the past and the realities of the present. She sought to address contemporary issues with empathy, vision, and action, ensuring that Diana's mission remained relevant and impactful in a world that had changed dramatically since her death. Through every challenge, triumph, and emotional revelation. Emma's journey illustrated the enduring power of the human spirit, the continuity of love and compassion, and the possibility of leaving a lasting mark on the world across lifetimes. By her late 20s, Emma had become a recognized figure in her community. Not for fame, but for the authenticity, empathy, and transformative energy she brought to every endeavor. Each charitable act, each compassionate interaction, each decision guided by inherited wisdom, reinforced the presence of Diana's spirit. People who knew her often remarked on the resemblance, not in appearance alone, but in essence, presence, and heart. Emma embodied a living testament to the people's princess, a bridge connecting the past and the present, and a beacon of hope for the future. The burden and the mission as Emma entered her early 30s, the intensity of her connection to Diana became impossible to ignore. The memories, emotions, and experiences that had once been subtle hints had now grown into a vivid, immersive reality. She could recall not only the joyous and triumphant moments from Diana's life, but also the profound pain, loneliness, and betrayal she had endured. These inherited emotions were heavy, sometimes crushing, yet they carried a clarity and purpose that Emma could not deny. Emma began to notice that even mundane events could trigger waves of Diana's past. A simple glance at a vintage car, a familiar song, or a news article from the 1990s could plunge her into vivid recollections. She remembered Diana's nervous anticipation at public events, the intrusive flash of cameras, and the scrutiny of media that had followed her every move. She remembered moments of isolation in the midst of crowds, the ache of unmet expectations, and the weight of a life constantly under judgment. These experiences were not merely empathic, they were tangible, as if Diana's soul was alive within her, reliving every sensation, fear, and hope. At the same time, Emma felt an increasing responsibility to honor Diana's legacy. Her inherited memories were not meant to remain private, they were a call to action. She expanded her charitable work, taking on leadership roles in community initiatives, organizing large-scale fundraisers, and advocating for causes that aligned with Diana's vision. Her approach was informed by both experience and intuition. She knew instinctively how to comfort those in pain, how to inspire trust, and how to mobilize support for those in need. One of the most significant challenges Emma faced was balancing the intensity of her internal experiences with the demands of her daily life. Relationships were complicated. Romantic partners often found her empathy and sensitivity overwhelming, as she could perceive emotions and intentions far beyond what most people experienced. Professional life required careful navigation. She needed to maintain boundaries while honoring the call to serve that her soul carried. Social interactions, though rich with meaning, were occasionally exhausting as she absorbed the unspoken emotions of those around her with an almost painful clarity. Emma also confronted moments of fear and uncertainty. Occasionally, she would feel trapped by the weight of Diana's past, the betrayals, the media scrutiny, and the personal struggles that had defined the princess's life. During these moments, she questioned whether she could bear the burden of a life that had already been lived, with its triumphs and tragedies. But each time she returned to the realization that her purpose was not merely to relive Diana's pain, it was to transform it into action, to continue the mission that had been left unfinished. The spiritual dimension of Emma's experience deepened during this time. She began meditating regularly, seeking clarity and connection. She explored traditions of reincarnation, past life memory, and soul continuity, finding resonance in teachings from various cultures and philosophies. In quiet moments of reflection, she could feel Diana's presence as a guiding force, offering insights and reassurance. These moments of connection were both grounding and empowering. They reminded Emma that she was not alone, and that the mission she carried was both sacred and achievable. Emma's connection to Diana began to manifest in subtle physical ways as well. She noticed habits and preferences that were uncanny in their alignment with Diana's life. The way she dressed, her mannerisms, and even her posture echoed the princess. Friends and acquaintances occasionally commented on the resemblance, noting not just physical or aesthetic similarities, but the warmth and grace she exuded. Fang's presence carried an almost magnetic quality, drawing people in with a sense of familiarity and comfort. It was as though the spirit of Diana was alive within her, radiating through every gesture and action. Public recognition of Emma's efforts began to emerge organically. Local media covered her charitable initiatives, highlighting her dedication and empathy. While Emma did not seek attention, the resonance of her actions drew notice. People who had known Diana, or had admired her from afar, remarked on the uncanny parallels, not in superficial terms, but in essence and energy. Emma was becoming a living continuation of Diana's mission, embodying the qualities that had made the princess beloved worldwide. One pivotal experience occurred during a large-scale charity event in London. Emma organized a fundraiser for children affected by illness, bringing together volunteers, donors, and community leaders. As she interacted with the attendees, she felt a profound sense of presence, Diana's awareness and energy guiding her every step. She instinctively comforted children, reassured anxious parents, and coordinated volunteers with a level of insight and empathy that seemed beyond her years. Observers later remarked on the extraordinary aura she brought to the event, noting that her calm confidence and intuitive understanding created an atmosphere of warmth and trust. Despite these successes, the emotional burden remained. Emma occasionally experienced vivid flashbacks of Diana's most difficult moments, the isolation she felt in the royal household, the relentless media scrutiny, and the challenges of balancing personal happiness with public expectations. These moments were intense, leaving Emma exhausted and emotionally raw. Yet she had learned to integrate these experiences, using them to inform her work, her relationships, and her understanding of human emotion. The inherited pain became a source of empathy, allowing her to connect with others in profound and meaningful ways. Emma also grappled with the philosophical and ethical dimensions of her reincarnation. She pondered the implications of living with memories that were not entirely her own. She questioned the boundaries between past and present, between personal autonomy and inherited purpose. Could she make decisions independently, or was her path predetermined by the life she carried within her? Through reflection and meditation, she came to understand that reincarnation was not a limitation but a framework. The soul carries lessons, memories, and opportunities across lifetimes, but it is up to the individual to act with intention, compassion, and integrity. Emma's purpose was to honor Diana's legacy while shaping her own path in the world. During this period, Emma also began to connect with others who had experienced past life memories or spiritual awakenings. She attended conferences, participated in discussion groups, and engaged with researchers exploring consciousness, memory, and reincarnation. These interactions provided context, validation, and support. She discovered that her experiences, while unique in their depth and specificity, resonated with broader patterns of soul continuity observed in countless cases throughout history. Emma felt part of a lineage of souls seeking purpose, healing, and impact across lifetimes. Emma's commitment to her mission intensified as she faced increasingly complex challenges. She began advocating for systemic changes in healthcare, education, and social services, drawing on both her inherited insights and her growing understanding of contemporary needs. Her work required resilience, strategic thinking, and the ability to inspire collaboration among diverse groups. She found that her connection to Diana provided not only empathy but also clarity, vision, and a profound sense of moral responsibility. Each initiative she undertook carried the imprint of Diana's values, ensuring that the princess's influence continued to shape the world in tangible ways. One transformative moment occurred when Emma was invited to speak at an international conference on humanitarian work. As she addressed the audience, she shared insights drawn from her own experiences and her understanding of human emotion, connection, and purpose. Her words resonated deeply, not only because of their content, but because of the authenticity and presence she radiated. Attendees later commented on the extraordinary sense of compassion and wisdom she conveyed, likening her energy to that of someone who had lived and learned through profound experiences. For Emma, it was a confirmation that the soul's journey continues, that lessons transcend lifetimes, and that Diana's legacy was alive in her actions, words, and being. Despite these affirmations, Emma never lost sight of the personal challenges inherent in her path. She continued to experience moments of doubt, grief, and emotional intensity. The inherited memories of Diana's struggles were a constant reminder of the fragility and complexity of human life. Yet Emma had learned to embrace these experiences, understanding that they were integral to her purpose. Each wave of emotion, each flash of memory, each encounter with someone in need was a reminder that her life was not merely her own. It was a continuation of a story that had begun decades earlier, a story of love, empathy, courage, and transformation. As Emma's work expanded, so did her spiritual awareness. She began to perceive subtle signs in the world around her, patterns of light, encounters with specific people, and moments of serendipity that confirmed her connection to Diana. These experiences were not random. They were deliberate markers guiding her path. Emma learned to interpret these signs, using them as tools to navigate complex situations, make decisions, and deepen her understanding of her mission. The presence of Diana's spirit became a constant companion, a source of strength, guidance, and inspiration. By her mid-30s, Emma had become a recognized force in her community and beyond. She balanced her inherited memories with contemporary challenges, integrating past wisdom with present action. She understood that her connection to Diana was not merely symbolic. It was functional, practical, and transformative. Every initiative she led, every act of compassion she performed, and every person she touched carried the imprint of the princess's influence. Emma had become a living continuation of Diana's mission, embodying the values, energy, and purpose that had defined her predecessor's extraordinary life. The burden of inherited memory, while heavy, had also become a source of empowerment. Emma had learned to navigate the emotional intensity, use it to connect with others, and transform it into meaningful action. She had embraced her role as a vessel of continuity, recognizing that reincarnation was both a responsibility and a privilege. Through her, Diana's spirit continued to shine, touching lives in subtle and profound ways, and ensuring that the legacy of compassion, courage, and humanity endured across time. Emma's journey was far from complete. Each day brought new challenges, opportunities, and revelations. Yet with every step, she moved forward with clarity and purpose, fully aware that her life was a bridge between past and present, memory and action, loss and renewal. The spirit of Diana lived on in her, guiding her toward a future shaped by empathy, love, and the enduring power of the human soul. Embracing the legacy by her late 30s, Emma had fully recognized that her connection to Diana was no longer a private experience, it was a calling. Every choice she made, every action she undertook, carried the weight and responsibility of a life once lived with profound impact. The memories of Diana's joys, sorrows, and unfulfilled missions had fused with her own sense of purpose, creating a life dedicated to service, compassion, and advocacy. Emma's work expanded on an unprecedented scale. She organized international charity initiatives, focusing on causes Diana had championed: children affected by illness, victims of war, and marginalized communities. Each event she led was infused with a depth of understanding that went beyond conventional empathy. Emma intuitively grasped the needs of individuals and communities, drawing upon Diana's experiences to guide her strategies. She knew how to address systemic issues while providing immediate care and comfort. Her leadership was both practical and visionary, a reflection of the lessons carried from Diana's life. Her presence began to attract attention. Though Emma never sought fame, people could not ignore the aura of familiarity she radiated. Supporters, volunteers, and even media outlets remarked on her uncanny resemblance to Diana, not merely in demeanor, grace, or compassion, but in the energy she exuded. Emma's influence was subtle yet undeniable, inspiring those around her to act with greater empathy, courage, and integrity. It was as though Diana's spirit had returned, not to replace the past, but to continue shaping the present. One pivotal moment came when Emma was invited to speak at an international conference on humanitarian work. She addressed thousands of attendees, sharing insights drawn from her own experiences and the wisdom inherited from Diana. Her words resonated deeply, conveying not only practical knowledge, but a profound sense of empathy and understanding. Attendees later commented that her presence felt familiar, comforting, and authoritative all at once, an echo of Diana's own ability to connect with people on a personal and global scale. Emma also faced the challenges that came with heightened attention. Some were skeptical of her experiences, dismissing her memories as imagination or coincidence. Others questioned her motivations, suspecting ambition rather than purpose. Yet Emma remained steadfast. She understood that her journey was not about proving reincarnation to the world, but about embodying the values, mission, and compassion of a life that had left an indelible mark. Each act of kindness, each initiative, and each connection she nurtured became evidence of her commitment to Diana's legacy, regardless of external judgment. Her philanthropic work continued to grow in scale and complexity. Emma founded a foundation dedicated to children affected by war and illness, drawing upon Diana's example to create programs that addressed both immediate needs and long-term development. She collaborated with international organizations, policymakers, and grassroots leaders, integrating strategic vision with hands-on engagement. Emma's approach was informed by intuition, experience, and inherited knowledge, allowing her to anticipate challenges, inspire cooperation, and maximize the impact of her efforts. Emma's personal life also reflected Diana's enduring influence. Her relationships, friendships, and social interactions were guided by a profound sense of empathy and authenticity. She gravitated toward people who shared her values, creating a network of individuals committed to positive change. Though she occasionally faced challenges in balancing intimacy and vulnerability, she drew strength from the understanding that her purpose transcended personal desires. The emotional depth she inherited from Diana allowed her to navigate complex relationships with patience, compassion, and insight. One defining aspect of Emma's journey was her commitment to honoring Diana's humanity. She acknowledged the pain, mistakes, and challenges that Diana had endured, integrating them into her own understanding of life and leadership. Emma recognized that true compassion requires acknowledging suffering and acting despite it. She embraced vulnerability as a strength, understanding that it fosters connection, empathy, and meaningful action. Through this lens, Emma's work was not only a continuation of Diana's mission, but also an evolution. Adapting the princess's values to the needs and realities of the modern world, Emma's influence extended beyond the organizations she led. communities she touched began to reflect a culture of empathy, cooperation, and resilience. Children who had once been overlooked received attention, care, and opportunity. Volunteers and staff experienced personal growth, inspired by Emma's example of integrity and dedication. The ripple effects of her actions spread far and wide, demonstrating the enduring impact of a life committed to service. In many ways, Emma had become a living embodiment of Diana's spirit, ensuring that the princess's vision and values continued to shape the world. As public recognition grew, Emma remained grounded. She resisted the temptation of fame, understanding that her role was not to become a celebrity but to serve as a conduit for change. Media attention was managed with care, ensuring that the focus remained on the work itself rather than on her persona. Interviews, appearances, and public engagements were conducted with humility, emphasizing the causes and communities she served. Emma's restraint and authenticity further reinforced the resonance of her connection to Diana, demonstrating that true leadership is rooted in service rather than self-interest. Emma's life also became a source of inspiration for those who had experienced similar awakenings or connections to past lives. She began mentoring individuals who felt drawn to spiritual continuity, guiding them in integrating memories, purpose, and action. Her guidance was practical, compassionate, and deeply informed by her own experiences. She helped others navigate emotional intensity, understand the lessons of reincarnation, and channel inherited wisdom into meaningful contributions. Through this mentorship, Emma extended Diana's legacy even further, fostering a network of individuals committed to empathy, service, and transformation. During this period, Emma also encountered profound moments of reflection. She would often walk alone in gardens, along riverbanks, or through quiet city streets, contemplating the intertwining of past and present. In these moments, she felt Diana's presence as a guiding force, offering reassurance, insight, and encouragement. Emma understood that her life was a bridge linking history with contemporary action, memory with purpose, and love with tangible change. These reflections reinforced her commitment, providing clarity and strength for the challenges ahead. One transformative experience occurred when Emma returned to Paris, revisiting the site of Diana's tragic accident. Standing in the Place de l'Alma tunnel, she felt an overwhelming connection to the princess's final moments, not as a source of fear or grief, but as a call to action. She realized that Diana's spirit had entrusted her with a mission: to continue the work that had been interrupted, to honor the values of compassion, courage, and humanity, and to ensure that the lessons of her life remained alive in the world. This moment solidified Emma's understanding of her purpose, infusing her work with renewed dedication and clarity. Emma's journey was not without setbacks. The emotional intensity of inherited memories, the pressures of public attention, and the complexity of managing large-scale initiatives occasionally left her exhausted. She faced criticism, skepticism, and logistical challenges. Yet each obstacle reinforced the importance of resilience, integrity, and unwavering commitment. Emma had learned to transform challenges into opportunities for growth, using every difficulty as a lesson in empathy, leadership, and spiritual continuity. Her Foundations programs flourished, impacting thousands of lives worldwide. Children received education, medical care, and emotional support. Communities affected by conflict or poverty were empowered through sustainable initiatives. Volunteers and staff were inspired by Emma's vision and dedication, creating a culture of compassion and service that reflected Diana's values. One of the most significant moments of her career occurred when Emma organized a global summit focused on humanitarian work, bringing together leaders, policymakers, and grassroots activists. The summit aimed to address systemic challenges in education, healthcare, and social welfare, providing actionable solutions and fostering international collaboration. Emma's leadership was unparalleled, Her ability to anticipate needs, inspire cooperation, and guide discussions with empathy and clarity reflected the depth of her inherited wisdom. Attendees often commented on the uncanny sense that Emma's presence embodied not just expertise but lived experience, a reminder that she carried the essence of a life that had shaped the world. Emma also faced profound personal challenges during this period. The intensity of Diana's memories continued to surface in unexpected ways. Flashes of sorrow, moments of emotional overwhelm, and the weight of past trauma. Yet she had learned to navigate these experiences with grace. Meditation, reflection, and her growing spiritual practice provided grounding, while her work offered a tangible outlet for the emotions she carried. Emma understood that embracing Diana's full legacy required balancing remembrance with action, integrating past experiences into present purpose. The more Emma engaged with the world, the clearer it became that reincarnation was not simply a spiritual concept. It was a framework for living with purpose. The lessons of a past life could inform choices, guide empathy, and inspire meaningful change. Emma's journey illustrated this principle in every action she undertook. She had become a living bridge between the past and present, channeling Diana's energy into contemporary initiatives and demonstrating the enduring power of compassion, courage, and service. Emma's work also brought her into contact with individuals who had personal memories or connections to Diana's life. Former colleagues, friends of the princess, and even strangers who had admired her globally recognized echoes of Diana and Emma's demeanor, choices, and presence. These interactions were both validating and humbling. They reminded Emma that her life was part of a continuum, that the legacy she carried was real and tangible, and that the impact of one extraordinary soul could extend far beyond a single lifetime. One poignant moment occurred when Emma visited a memorial dedicated to Diana. Standing before a statue bathed in sunlight, she felt the full weight of the journey she had undertaken. The memories of Diana's joys, struggles, and triumphs surged within her, not as a burden, but as a source of clarity and inspiration. And Emma understood that the princess's spirit was not bound by death, but lived on in action, compassion, and love. Every initiative she led, every child she comforted, every life she touched was a continuation of Diana's mission, a living testament to the enduring power of one extraordinary soul. As Emma's recognition grew, she became a symbol of hope, continuity, and resilience. People from around the world sought her guidance, inspired by the example she set. Her story spread not just as a narrative of reincarnation, but as a demonstration of how one life's purpose could transcend time and circumstance. Emma's existence became a living proof that compassion, courage, and empathy are eternal, capable of shaping generations and transforming societies. The culmination of Emma's journey occurred when she launched a global initiative focused on systemic change for children and marginalized communities. The initiative combined education, healthcare, and emotional support, providing a holistic approach to empowerment. Emma traveled extensively, engaging with communities firsthand, listening to their needs, and implementing programs tailored to local realities. Her work was informed by both inherited insight and contemporary understanding, creating solutions that were innovative, compassionate, and sustainable. During these travels, Emma frequently reflected on the intertwining of her life with Diana's. Each city, each community, each interaction revealed echoes of the princess's experiences, moments of recognition, emotional resonance, and intuitive understanding. Emma realized that her journey was not merely a continuation of Diana's life, but an evolution, a way to adapt timeless principles of empathy, courage, and service to the realities of the present. The soul, she understood, is never confined by time. Its mission is eternal, unfolding in countless forms across lifetimes through acts of love, service, and humanity. Emma's influence extended to the global stage, where leaders and organizations began to consult her on matters of humanitarian strategy, social reform, and emotional intelligence in leadership. She shared insights drawn from her unique experiences, blending inherited wisdom with modern approaches to Her guidance was sought not for celebrity status, but because of the depth, clarity, and compassion she brought to every discussion. In this way, Emma's life became a testament to the practical impact of spiritual continuity, a bridge between insight and action, between past and present. As her life progressed, Emma became increasingly aware of the subtle signs and synchronicities that accompanied her path. Certain dates, locations, and encounters seemed orchestrated, guiding her toward opportunities to make the greatest impact. She discovered objects and symbols associated with Diana, sometimes appearing unexpectedly, reinforcing the sense that her journey was aligned with a purpose beyond ordinary comprehension. Each of these moments served as confirmation that the mission she carried was authentic, meaningful, and enduring. Despite the immense scope of her work, Emma remained deeply personal in her approach. She met every child, volunteer, and beneficiary with sincerity, empathy, and attentiveness. She listened, comforted, and guided, ensuring that each interaction left a tangible, positive impact. Emma understood that true legacy is measured not only by large-scale achievements, but by the depth of connection, the capacity to inspire, and the enduring influence of small acts of kindness. In this way, she honored Diana's life in both grand gestures and quiet, intimate moments. Emma's journey also inspired others to explore their own spiritual and emotional continuity. Through mentorship programs, speaking engagements, and personal interactions, she guided individuals in recognizing the lessons of past lives, the importance of empathy, and the power of purposeful action. Her example demonstrated that legacy is not inherited merely through memory, but through the conscious choice to live with intention, compassion, and courage. One evening, as Emma walked through a quiet garden reflecting on her journey, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The memories of Diana were no longer solely a source of emotional intensity. They were a guiding light. She had transformed inherited experiences into purposeful action, creating a life that honored the past while shaping the future. Emma understood that reincarnation was not simply a spiritual phenomenon, but a framework for meaningful living, a bridge connecting human experience across time, guiding the soul towards service, love, and lasting impact. Emma's story, the culmination of years of personal growth, inherited memory, and dedicated action, stands as a testament to the enduring power of one extraordinary life. Through her, the People's Princess continues to inspire, heal, and empower. The legacy of empathy, courage, and compassion that Diana left behind lives on, and not merely in memory, but in action, in connection, and in the hearts of those touched by Emma's work. Despite growing visibility, Emma remained deeply private about the spiritual aspects of her journey. She spoke of purpose, legacy, and empathy, but rarely disclosed the reincarnation experiences that had guided her life. To some, the energy she exuded seemed inexplicable, even uncanny. Yet Emma understood that her connection to Diana was a sacred responsibility, not a spectacle. She allowed her actions to speak for her, trusting that those who needed to recognize the legacy would do so through the results of her work. One particularly pivotal moment occurred during a global summit on child welfare in Geneva. Emma was invited to deliver the keynote address, a speech broadcast to humanitarian organizations worldwide. She spoke with unwavering clarity, weaving stories of hope, resilience, and action. As she spoke, she felt the unmistakable presence of Diana guiding her words, ensuring that her message resonated deeply with listeners. The applause was overwhelming, yet Emma remained focused, not on recognition, but on the tangible steps that would follow. ensuring meaningful change for the children and communities represented. Media coverage intensified. Documentaries, interviews, and features highlighted her uncanny resemblance to Diana's compassion and leadership. Some questioned the origins of her insight, wondering if it was memory, intuition, or something deeper. Emma neither confirmed nor denied. She simply continued her work, embodying the principles she had long known as her own. The world gradually began to recognize her as a leader in humanitarian efforts, a woman whose influence was rooted in empathy, action, and unwavering dedication. Emma's initiatives also expanded into education. She founded programs that not only provided basic schooling but fostered emotional intelligence, empathy, and leadership skills among children from disadvantaged backgrounds. Her approach reflected a holistic understanding of human development, informed by both inherited wisdom and contemporary research. Children responded to Emma with trust and affection, sensing the genuine care and presence that radiated from her. Teachers, volunteers, and families often remarked that her approach seemed instinctive, as if she understood each child's emotional and social needs before they could articulate them. The public's fascination with Emma intensified, but she remained steadfast in her priorities. She focused on collaboration, ensuring that every initiative had local ownership, cultural sensitivity, and long-term sustainability. She understood that legacy was not about individual accolades, but about creating systems that empowered communities to thrive independently. Her work reflected Diana's values: compassion, humility, and empowerment, but adapted to contemporary challenges. During this period, Emma also faced the emotional intensity of inherited memories in public spaces. Walking through crowded areas, visiting hospitals, or attending large conferences could trigger vivid recollections of Diana's experiences, the intrusive media, the scrutiny, the pressures of public life. Yet Emma had learned to harness these emotions as tools rather than obstacles. They deepened her empathy, guided her interactions, and reminded her of the stakes involved in her work. Each flash of memory became an opportunity to act with clarity, courage, and compassion. Emma's influence was not confined to Western societies. She traveled extensively to regions affected by war, poverty, and natural disaster. Each visit offered new challenges and opportunities. She worked with local leaders to implement educational programs, provide healthcare, and create emotional support networks. Her strategies reflected both intuition and inherited wisdom, allowing her to anticipate needs, navigate complex dynamics, and inspire collective action. Through these efforts, Emma demonstrated that the legacy of a single extraordinary life could ripple across continents, transforming countless lives. One particularly memorable experience occurred in a refugee camp in the Middle East. Emma spent hours walking among families, listening to their stories, and providing comfort. Children gravitated toward her instinctively, sensing the authenticity and warmth she radiated. She facilitated educational and medical programs while ensuring emotional support for those traumatized by conflict. At the end of the visit, a young girl whispered, "You remind me of someone very kind." The words resonated deeply with Emma, affirming the continuity of Diana's presence in her actions. Emma also began to mentor emerging humanitarian leaders, emphasizing the integration of empathy, strategy, and emotional intelligence. She shared lessons about resilience, ethical leadership, and the importance of listening deeply to those one serves. Her mentees were inspired not only by her experience, but by the evident authenticity and moral clarity that guided her every decision. In this way, Emma extended Diana's legacy into future generations, cultivating a network of compassionate leaders capable of sustaining and expanding the impact of her work. Despite her public visibility, Emma's personal life remained grounded. She nurtured close relationships with friends and family, maintaining spaces of privacy and reflection. Her emotional resilience was supported by meditation, introspection, and connection to the spiritual dimension of her life. She often reflected on the intertwining of her existence with Diana's, recognizing that her journey was both a continuation and evolution. A chance to complete a mission interrupted by time and circumstance. By the end of this phase, Emma had fully embraced her public role, balancing visibility with humility and purpose. Her initiatives touched millions of lives worldwide, while her personal presence inspired countless others to act with empathy and courage. The world began to see not just a woman with remarkable insight and compassion, but a living embodiment of continuity, purpose, and human potential. Emma entered her mid-40s with a profound sense of purpose and clarity. Years of charitable work, global initiatives, and personal reflection had transformed her understanding of what it meant to carry Diana's legacy. No longer was the experience a mysterious or burdensome inheritance. It had become a living, guiding force, shaping every thought, action, and interaction. She had learned to navigate the intense emotional resonance of Diana's memories, integrating both joy and sorrow into a coherent understanding of life and human nature. The struggles Diana faced, loss, public scrutiny, personal sacrifice, were no longer solely emotional echoes. They had become lessons. Emma now used these lessons to inform her leadership, her empathy, and her understanding of global suffering. Her philanthropic reach had grown exponentially. Emma's foundation now operated in multiple countries, providing education, healthcare, and emotional support to children in marginalized communities. Programs were holistic, combining practical assistance with mentorship, emotional care, and empowerment. Emma traveled tirelessly, yet every visit was deliberate, intentional, and infused with a personal touch. She listened with deep attention, responded with thoughtful guidance, and ensured that the initiatives she led were sustainable and culturally sensitive. One particularly transformative moment occurred during a visit to a remote village in Southeast Asia. Emma had heard reports of a small school struggling to operate amid political instability and economic hardship. Upon arrival, she walked through the classrooms, serving children who had endured profound hardship. Instinctively, she began speaking with the students, offering encouragement, reassurance, and a vision of hope. Teachers and parents watched in awe as Emma navigated the complex environment with empathy and authority. Later that evening, she reflected on the experience, realizing that the presence of Diana's spirit allowed her to connect at a depth few could achieve, transforming not just logistical outcomes but emotional realities as well. Emma's public recognition continued to grow, but she never allowed it to overshadow her purpose. Interviews, media coverage, and documentaries featured her work, often noting her uncanny resemblance to Diana, not just in demeanor, but in energy, empathy, and charisma. While some speculated about reincarnation, Emma never sought to prove it. Her focus remained steadfast, impact over attention, action over explanation. She understood that the essence of Diana's legacy was not fame, but service, compassion, and the transformation of lives. During this period, Emma began formalizing mentorship programs for emerging humanitarian leaders. She recognized that legacy is not merely a reflection of personal achievements, but a cultivation of future agents of change. These programs combined practical leadership training, emotional resilience coaching, and spiritual reflection. Participants often remarked that Emma's guidance was unlike any other. She combined strategy with intuition, leadership with empathy, and wisdom with practical action. In guiding others, Emma ensured that Diana's mission would continue beyond her own lifetime, carried forward by countless hands inspired by her example. Amy's spiritual awareness also deepened. Daily meditation and reflection allowed her to access moments of clarity and guidance from Diana's memories. She often described this connection as a dialogue, a subtle flow of intuition, insight, and reassurance that informed her decisions. It was neither intrusive nor overwhelming. It was a source of balance, grounding, and direction. Through this connection, Emma understood that her life was not merely her own. It was a continuation, evolution, and fulfillment of a mission that began decades earlier. One of the most poignant moments of Emma's journey occurred during a quiet visit to Althorpe, Diana's family estate. Walking through the gardens, she felt a profound presence, not merely a memory of Diana, but a living resonance. The memories, once intense and sometimes painful, were now integrated into her being. Emma understood that reincarnation is not about reliving the past, but about learning from it, channeling it into purpose and extending its influence. The estate, the gardens, and the quiet spaces became a mirror of both continuity and transformation, a place where past and present coexisted in harmony. Emma's work increasingly emphasized sustainability and systemic change. She developed programs to provide education, healthcare, and social support, while also addressing underlying structural challenges. Communities were empowered to develop self-sustaining initiatives, ensuring long-term impact. Emma's approach combined inherited wisdom from Diana with contemporary knowledge, demonstrating that a single life's lessons could evolve into strategies that transcend time, culture, and circumstance. During these years, Emma also reflected on the personal dimension of legacy. She nurtured relationships with friends, family, and colleagues, prioritizing depth, honesty, and mutual respect. Though public recognition had expanded, she maintained intimate spaces where she could rest, reflect, and reconnect with herself. She understood that personal fulfillment was inseparable from her broader mission. Without balance, empathy loses clarity, and purpose loses sustainability. Emma's influence reached beyond immediate humanitarian work. She began writing and speaking about spiritual continuity, empathy, and the evolution of purpose across lifetimes. Her words inspired individuals to examine their own potential, to consider the possibility that life's purpose transcends a single lifetime, and to recognize the power of intentional action. Emma's teachings emphasized practical applications of spiritual wisdom, compassion as policy, empathy as leadership, and continuity as motivation for meaningful action. A particularly transformative initiative involved establishing a global network of child advocates. Emma's foundation connected educators, social workers, psychologists, and volunteers across continents. This network emphasized emotional support, resilience, and empowerment, ensuring that vulnerable children received not only care but also agency. Emma coordinated these efforts with precision and empathy, drawing upon Diana's instincts, experiences, and lessons to guide both strategy and interaction. The network's success became a testament to the enduring power of one life's influence carried forward with purpose and clarity. Emma also found moments of quiet fulfillment in smaller, intimate acts. Visiting a sick child in a hospital room, comforting a grieving parent, or encouraging a young student struggling with self-confidence brought her a profound sense of connection. These moments reinforced her understanding that legacy is not solely measured by grand initiatives, but also by the emotional and spiritual impact of sincere human interaction. Diana's presence in these moments was unmistakable, guiding Emma to offer the precise words, gestures, or support needed to transform a fleeting moment into lasting reassurance. In her later years, Emma reflected deeply on the totality of her journey. The memories of Diana, once vivid and sometimes burdensome, had become a source of wisdom and guidance. Every experience, triumph, heartbreak, struggle, or success was integrated into her understanding of purpose. Emma had transformed inherited memory into actionable insight, creating a life that honored the past while shaping the future. The culmination of Emma's journey was not marked by a single event, but by the enduring impact of her actions. Programs she initiated continued to thrive, communities she nurtured flourished, and and countless individuals were inspired to live with empathy, courage, and purpose. Emma's life became a living testament to the principles Diana had embodied: compassion, humility, and dedication to the betterment of others. Emma often reflected on the spiritual lessons of her journey. She realized that reincarnation is not merely about returning to life, but about extending influence, fulfilling unfinished missions, and demonstrating the timeless power of purpose. The continuity of the soul is not measured by memory alone, but by the tangible impact on the world, the lives transformed, and the hearts inspired. Ultimately, Emma's story demonstrates that a single extraordinary life can echo across time, transcending mortality, geography, and circumstance. Through her, Diana's legacy lives on, not merely as memory or symbol, but as a force for tangible change. Emma's journey from the awakening of memories to full integration of purpose offers a blueprint for understanding the power of continuity, empathy, and intentional living. Emma's final reflections were serene. She understood that her life, though uniquely her own, was inseparable from the mission she had inherited. Through action, compassion, and unwavering dedication, she had ensured that Diana's values, love, service, and humanity, continued to shape the world. The story of reincarnation was no longer abstract. It was a living, breathing testament to the power of one life to inspire generations, heal wounds, and leave a lasting legacy. As Emma gazed across a community center she had helped build, watching children play, volunteers organize, and families thrive, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Diana's presence was no longer a shadow or echo. It was a guiding light fully realized through Emma's actions. The legacy, once interrupted by tragedy, had now been restored and expanded. Through Emma, the people's princess lived on, eternally woven into the fabric of lives she touched, ensuring that compassion, courage, and service would never fade from the world.